Welcome to the E-Show with Neil Ravin. Founded in 2013, the EHL has become the college placement leader on the East Coast. Sit back and learn more about the next step in your junior hockey career.
Welcome to the E-Show, presented by the Penalty Box Foundation. The Foundation's mission centers around their daily motto, we take care of our own, as they help out all of those within the hockey community who've experienced a catastrophic event. Learn more at penaltyboxfoundation.org. What's up? My name is Neil Ravin, and this is episode number 93 of the E-Show. On this week's episode, we preview this weekend's showcase in Walpole. With 28 games scheduled over a 3-day span, there will surely be plenty of top performances delivered in both the EHL and the EHLP. The weekly rundown helps set the stage by creating a number 1 versus number 2 matchup in the EHL. Further along, the E-Crew provides the latest update on the Fantasy Challenge, which also just endured a massive shakeup in the overall standings. This week's games to watch include much more than just the top 2 showdown, but prior to all of that, we kick off the episode by chatting with Vinny Pietrangelo, the head coach at Arcadia University. I'm joined now by Vinny Pietrangelo, the head coach at Arcadia. How's it going, man?
Not too bad, Neil. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for coming on the podcast. I know we talked about this at the Worcester Showcase, so let's jump right into it. You got hired at Arcadia, it feels like forever ago, probably for you, back in 2019, started recruiting basically the following month, October of 2019, and now you're a few weeks away from your first game. Are you guys ready?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, this has been a long journey for me and both for our women's team as well. 2 years ago when I got the job in October, it's, like, hey, I'll go now and see who you can get. And, it's been a long process. The majority of it, with the exclusion of 4 months, has been, through the ongoing pandemic. Yeah. So that added some complexities to everything, where you're building your team, for the majority through the pandemic. And now, we get to see how we are. Yeah. And, it's awesome to start, practice this week and see. And, I really love what we have so far, and the guys that we were able to bring in. I really like, the product that we'll be able to deliver on the ice.
And you started to kind of allude to it there. So you started in 2019. You didn't play in the 1920 or 2021 season. So I'm going to use a phrase that's kind of a little bit strange, but was it almost a blessing in disguise because of everything that happened?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta make the most out of every situation, right?
Yeah.
Turn some negatives into positives. So obviously there were some recruiting challenges, but I try to spin those in a positive manner. I just think the biggest thing is that I got so much time to build this program.
Mm-hmm.
To do it within a year time frame during the pandemic, it would be a lot harder than what the time they gave me. So I was able to really, year one, really identify the guys that I wanted to bring in and really making sure that I got the correct guys that I wanted for the program. So in that aspect, yes, I do think it was a blessing in disguise for me.
How many times did you have to answer the question, when are you guys starting?
Yeah. I don't know. It is untypical to have the amount of lead time that we have. So everybody thought that we were starting, last year. And then, even people now are like, oh, you guys are supposed to start last year. You got to be excited for this year, even though, the plan all along was to start, this season. So yeah, that question has been answered a ton. So
when you say the plan, was that what the athletic department kind of approached you with when you first applied for the job?
So, I mean, actually the original plan was not supposed to be hired until like December or January of that year. But then after interviewing a lot of the candidates, finding out the majority of the showcases took place in the fall.
Yep.
We thought, the athletic department thought it'd be best to hire someone early so they can see those initial showcases in 2019. And so that's, how that played out. I had to leave Canton a little bit earlier than planned.
Yep.
But obviously with this being the dream job and the goal, this came calling. So, I took it, but the plan was to have, a year and a half to build a program. But, ours got extended a little bit. And, quite honestly, I think, a lot of teams might start this approach. I know Alvernia took the similar approach with their league, with how much they're giving Coach Burke there. So, I hope it's a trend. You'd rather have more time than not enough time. So
yes. And then looking at your schedule coming up, as I mentioned, it's just a few weeks away. You have an exhibition against Kings at the end of the month, 2 games against Aurora to start your season. And then you jump right into things in the UCHC. How much more extra beneficial is it for you to have a conference like the UCHC to be joining?
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome to be right away and have, some of the East Coast best talent right in your conference. And like I said, playing Utica on the road as our first ever conference game is really it's a really tall task. Obviously, the guys are going to know exactly what it's like to play college hockey, right?
Yep.
The conference is great. I mean, it's a great recruiting tool for us to night in and night out, tell the recruits that we're playing, the best teams out there with Utica, Stevenson, Wilkes. It's awesome. And I think everybody in the conference has gotten a lot better in the past 2 years. So it's going to be a really, really, really tight race this year to see how things are going. And, I've got to do it with a team that's primarily all freshmen. So, and we're not overlooking, Aurora out of the Midwest, they're really, really good too. And that's going to be a really good home opening test for us as well, just to prepare us for, the upcoming year. So,
and you mentioned the freshman class that you have coming in, which is basically your team is all freshmen. But there's obviously a good core coming from the EHL. A couple that stand out to me are Donnie Feldman and Halen Cookston. When you landed forwards like that to join your program, what did it mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, it was really, really special getting those two players. Obviously they've been proven point producers at that league. Speaking with, about Donnie Feldman, a natural born leader, being a captain there for New England, and, everybody raves about him, and also being able to make the all-star team. That was huge. That was really big for us. And, he's looked really good early on this year. And Halen too, there's a lot of things that I really liked about Halen's game early. He can shoot the puck extremely hard, for not being overly big. He plays big too. And they're huge pieces for us in building this program. Another one that I'm really excited out of the league would be Jake Frankenfield.
Yep.
From the Little Flyers. Right now he's on my top D pair. And I love his game. I know he's a little undersized, but I like that undersized defenseman that can skate and move the puck.
And when you mention all these players, and obviously the whole team that you have is going to be so young, how often do you think you're going to have to mention to them the growing pains that you're going to go through and make them understand that you're going to lose some games early on because the team is so young?
Right. I mean, I've told them basically hey, we've got 5-6 games for you guys to get under your feet. And then, I expect you to now be sophomores because we don't have that leadership. But yeah, it's a process. And everybody here was recruited here was bought into that process of making this program better, of gradually, increasing how many wins we get per year to ultimately competing for that championship, and knowing that, there's going to be growing pains. There's going to be bumps in the road. I mean, no one's, collectively with everything, I've got one college hockey game of experience from one transfer. So no one knows what to expect. So yeah, there's going to be growing pains, but we're going to grow through it together. We're going to learn together. And at the end of the day, we want to leave this program better than how we, started it.
Mm-hmm. And I asked that last question starting with Feldman, but I want to go over to Cookston for a second, because he was one of the guys that you committed first. I think Frankenfield was first and then Cookston. Was it always a plan of yours to get a player from a former teammate of yours and Josh Fusco?
Yeah. That's good research on your part. I've known Josh for a long time. Obviously we played together at Finlandia University. So it was ultimately a great connection for me, and they're relatively close too, for me to see them a numerous amount of times, not only at home for them, but on the road too, when they play the Little Flyers. That's 45. They play the 87s. So yeah, I mean, he was one guy that I targeted throughout the summer, and he just so happened to land, with Josh. So, it was very, very easy transition for me to, have him come up to visit and start that, immediate communication with him. But, at the end of the day, I also took 2 other guys from Josh too. So we got from Team Maryland. We had Michael Kosas, who was there for, the first half of the year, and then Kyle Peters, who joined them as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's great about this league, is those connections you make with those coaches. And obviously when I'm starting a team from the ground up, I have to rely on those connections that I've made. And, some really good ones through the EHL so far. Even when Coach Fusco was at Wilkes-Barre before, I started taking guys from him. So it's awesome to see.
So let's talk about those connections more, because obviously you were at the first showcase talking with all of our teams, and it goes back to your time in Canton. How valuable was that experience as an assistant leading up to what you have now in this head coaching role?
Yeah, it was great being an assistant. I learned under Alex Boak, who is a tremendous head coach, and he really let me learn and grow as an assistant. He primarily let me handle all of the recruiting, which was, what I really wanted to do. And we had a really good system there. He let me go anywhere I wanted, any league I wanted. And the EHL was one I wanted to target early. And we were able to, take 2-3 guys a year. When I was at Canton, obviously, that number got multiplied with the amount of guys I had to bring in this year. I think it's about 8 this year for here at Arcadia.
Yeah.
But that time was great. He really helped me grow into being a head coach. I'll be honest, there's times my first year that I wasn't great as an assistant, and I went through some learning curves myself, but he stuck with me. And by the end of my 4th year, promoted me to associate head. But that's the time frame when then I left for this job. So he really prepared me to be ready for this year. And they're on the schedule this year too. That game I know is circled more for me. And my guys, obviously I want to, prove to him that I'm ready and, have a little extra added benefit of those games.
I was going to ask you about that because I knew it would be circled, but did you strategically try and put it when you did so that your guys could be, as you said it, maybe sophomores by that time?
Yeah. Just how some things worked out. Obviously it's a little bit harder to schedule on when they're, still an independent team and we have to work around our conference schedule. So there's not a lot of weeks that align. He wanted to come down here to play us on the road. I really wanted to have a home opener at home against someone for our first ever game to be at home. So it just kind of aligned like that. But yeah, hopefully our guys have a full semester under their belt. They're prepared for that second semester.
So for one final question, now that you're officially starting and you're on the ice for practice and getting ready to play games soon, which has been a long time coming, over 2 seasons coming, how does your recruiting message change now that you can say, yes, we are playing?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's always hard to try and recruit someone to something that's not established.
Mm-hmm.
Try and have to recruit to someone that, you need to show them your vision because we haven't played games. And sometimes there's a stigma with new programs. They're not going to be as great as maybe some of those established ones. So, now having everything, like having our locker room finished, having a facility to show everybody is huge. But now being able to play games and showcase, that product that we have on ice and that culture that we have is great. And, for us, moving forward, I don't have to recruit 30 guys next year. So obviously, just looking for guys that, can make us better, in every aspect of the game.
Yep.
So I can kind of be a little bit more picky now.
Yeah.
With that, but yeah, it's a huge added benefit to actually, have that and show guys what we have to offer in person with games and practices.
It's awesome. And it's great to see that you guys are finally able to get started here after everything that's gone on, of course. So I appreciate you coming on the podcast. I wish you the best of luck as you get ready to get started here, and we'll see you at a showcase again soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Neil, for sure. Be there. And, thanks for the opportunity for letting me speak here in Arcadia, and, thankful for everything that you guys do in the EHL. Your showcases are awesome. I think you guys run everything great. There's a reason why you guys have so many commits every year. So
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Neil.
Thanks again to Vinny Pietrangelo for coming on the podcast this week, the head coach at Arcadia. As we mentioned there throughout the interview with Vinny, feels like a long time coming for them. Finally going to play their first game after 2 years of recruiting coming up here at the end of the month. But with that, let's bring in the E crew. And guys, did the first showcase not just end? We're already getting ready for the next showcase.
Were you not entertained?
You're
not entertained?
Hockey for you?
All right, sure. Let's blow doors. Open up the rod. 3 days. Here we go.
It's not as long, this showcase. This showcase is not as long, which is nice.
1 day less. How many games? We had 48, 46 around there.
Yeah, we ended up with 44 in Worcester.
44.
I should know the game count. It's a great question, Jeff. Thank you for asking that question.
I'm shocked that sorry to put you on the spot. Usually that's like right there, but
20
we scheduled this next one around a football game. Whose smart idea was that?
I mean, if I sneak out on Sunday for a good 4 hours, no one's gonna notice.
From 4:30 to 8:30. Neil's gone. I don't get it.
So there's 28 games, Jeff. There's 2 points I have to bring up before we get into the weekly rundown. Number one, something is happening at this showcase that has never happened in the showcase before. Can you guys guess what it is? And it involves me.
You are not calling games, but you usually don't call any showcase games.
But you're right on the right track. I am
You
calling
are
it.
calling
I'm
showcase
calling it.
games?
I'm calling a game. I'm calling
A
a game.
game?
One game.
Thank you for showing up, Neil. How can we get through the showcase without your one call?
Oh,
Thank
you know,
you.
I already know what game it is. It's the Saturday 2 p.m. game, is it?
Yes. How did you know that?
Does it
That
take
was
away
that
your
was
schedule,
scary.
Anthony.
That was
No,
like scary.
I can tell you why, because Hockey TV contacted me and they wanted me to do 4 games. It's all on Saturday, 2 p.m., 4 p.m., 6 p.m., 8 p.m. The problem is because I travel with the 87s to the showcases, and we're probably going to be arriving in Walpole right around 2:00. So I told Hockey TV that it would be better if I don't do that game. So Neil, thank you for taking that slot.
Oh,
You know,
here I am being a smart ass, and you're actually doing us all a favor. So
If
thank
the
you.
East Coast Wizards are involved, I'll say yes. I got the Wizards and the Avalanche game.
Oh my, how could that be any more perfect? The team you still
That-
call games for. Well, I hope they get to the finals this year, Neil. When
Yes.
you call Wizards Avalanche, how
Right?
are we going to do that?
Yeah,
No,
dude,
no
so-
bias there whatsoever, Jeff.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just asking, just a reporter asking questions. That's all, Anthony. You know?
So I'm calling a game. And the last time we had a showcase in Walpole, do you remember what happened, Jeff?
Did Chris Sorrell get a showcase loss? He's got like a 5-0 record. I don't know.
I walked down the
Oh, the
lobby.
dog?
because- No,
Oh, the human that came in.
Yes,
in the dog's
yes,
bed. Yes.
yes.
The nap time. in the front
Lauren
lobby.
brought this up. There is a Patriots game. Just so everyone knows, the Patriots are playing during the showcase on Sunday. Like, there's going to be traffic. Prepare yourself for that. And prepare yourself for a few Patriots fans to wander down, like that one fan did a few years ago, and he fell asleep in the lobby. So I passed him, and I was like, we probably should get this taken care of. But with that, let's get
And
into
I
the
knew
weekly
Officer
rundown.
Haber that came in and took care of him.
Yes.
But
Let's
another
get
story for another day.
Yeah, let's jump into the weekly rundown.
It's time for the E-Cruise Weekly Rundown.
And the E-Show Weekly Rundown is brought to you by the Junior Hockey Podcast, your home for junior hockey news, knowledge, and nonsense. Check them out at tjhpodcast.com.
With the recording of this podcast we're doing it on October 13th, dropping it on the 14th. Every team in the league now has at least one win and at least one loss. As of
Yay.
today.
Let's
As
go,
of
Rough
today.
Riders.
Congratulations to Brownie
Proud
and
of
Lindy
you.
down in Connecticut. Well done.
And
Off the schneid.
it's just, it continues with, I'm blanking on what it is now. What do we call the theory, Anthony?
You mean the transitive property?
Yes, the
Yeah,
transitive
there it is.
property. Yes, it continues. That continues to spin in my head because I just have no idea who is who. Like I know Justin wants to hear this question. Who the hell are the Seacoast Spartans?
Oh, I don't even know if Coach Strider can
Party, party.
tell you who they are.
The opening weekend, they lose to the Avalanche they lose to the Rangers in overtime. Then they lose to the Avalanche 7-0. Then they come back and sweep the Lumberjacks in the 2-game set. Then they go to the showcase and get 1 point in 3 games. Then they come out of the showcase and win 2 back-to-back road games against the Warriors and Wizards. It makes no sense.
And one of those I was on the call for, Neil, they had no business winning that game. Valley had their foot on their throats. And then Valley was up, I think it was 3-1 was their biggest lead. Seacoast wins 5-3. I had no clue either. I was
They're in first place. They're in first
and
place.
They did the same thing.
Party!
Here's the amazing thing too about what Coach Strider and the boys did last week. Almost same exact score, right? They won 5-2 against the Wizards, and it was 5-3 against Valley.
Yes,
Maybe mixing up
yes.
scores. But both games they were down, and then they came in the third period and just blew doors and came back and won games. So if they keep that up, and it's going to be Brett's going to have some very gray hairs in exit here if they can keep winning like that. But they're getting it done.
They're a -8 goal differential. But is that
I
because
watched
of
them
that?
play in Valley too, and I feel like they took a bit to wake up in that game, but once they did, it was like, oh shoot, like this game is totally going their way, and there was just no way around it.
I agree. That's right. Lauren was at that game that I called. Her and Mari were sitting to the left.
Yes.
I
Took a
think
little
the
bit of a
goal
road trip. It was
differential. I think the goal differential is because of that one 7-0 loss though to the Avalanche. It's just funny. It's just funny to see a team and that's in first place that got 1 out of 6 points at the Worcester Showcase, right?
Yeah.
And coming into this showcase, they are lined up to play. I just had this a second ago. They're playing on the first day and the second day. They play Vermont again. I'm sure they love to see each other on the first day, and then they play the Apple Corps, which I guess is probably the next team to say who are the New York Apple Corps. Like I have no idea.
Too.
Yeah, they lost a
so
tough
weird.
one today.
Well,
Anthony, they almost swept the
today.
87s last weekend.
Well, you could also say the 87s almost swept Apple Corps.
You could say that.
Because it honestly went both ways. Where both games, it was sort of a tug of war, I should say. Where in the first game, Apple Corps scored, and then the 87 scored, rinse and repeat. And it was Colin Callanan who scored with 36 seconds to go in regulation. That was at Jersey Shore Arena. I was on the call for that one. The next
buying
day,
his jersey after last week. What?
Seriously, we'll get to
previewing a future segment.
The next day, the 87s, I want to say, had a 3-1 lead. Apple Corps scored twice to tie it. Then I think Apple Corps scored again. Then the 87s tied it. And then with 2 minutes left in regulation, the 87s went down for Apple Corps had a 5-on-3 power play. And Jason Atkinson took it across. He scored a shorthanded goal. I may or may not have startled my neighbors with how loudly I yelled. Watching from the very basement I'm recording in right now.
Love it.
It was a wild game. But
Get woke, neighbors. Get woke.
But it's just they're
Used
such a
to it.
strange
Long
team, right? You
season.
want to talk about goal differential again? The Apple Corps' goal differential is even, just 0, and they're
score a
4,
lot
5,
of-
and 1.
Yeah,
they
score
remind me a
goals, too.
lot of the 2009 Washington Capitals, where they give up a lot of goals, they give up a lot of shots, but they score. They are a goal-scoring machine led by Colin Callanan.
Yeah, and I know at this point last year, Jeff, I probably had put you guys on the spot to make your Frozen Finals picks. Like we're throwing
Don't
darts.
try now.
We're
Don't
throwing
even
darts
dare.
right now because it just makes absolutely no sense. But let's get into the EHL power rankings because as I did mention, every team does have a loss now. Every team does have a win. Walpole went into this week number 1. They lost a game in a shootout this week. Did anyone do enough to jump Walpole for that number 1 position?
Oof. It's just full of tough questions this week. I was doing the same thing.
Maryland won 3 games. Maryland won 3 games this week. They beat Pro Tech twice and Little Flyers once. So they're now all the way up to 9-2, best record in the league.
And we had them at 4 last week. Did they do enough to jump from 4 to 1?
That was their first time in the power rankings. What are we doing, guys?
I think Maryland deserves to at least go higher than 4. That's for sure. Maryland is like they're proving to be the team to beat right now.
And they're
led by Mr. Graziano, one Cliff Graziano's
and Farrell Din. Farrell Din was great. You know, shout out to Din because he was my fantasy pick and he got the overtime winner.
Yeah. I mean, Maryland's 9-2.
Bonus points.
Rangers are 8-2. Wizards are 7-2. Walpole is 6-1-1. And then the team that we had 5th in our power rankings last week just beat Walpole. The Railers are 5-2.
Yeah. So I mean, you can't kick them out, can you? They just beat the number 1 team. That should move them.
I don't think anyone did enough outside of the 5 to get into the 5.
I agree.
Because the team with the next highest point total outside of the 5 would be the New Jersey 87s. And I think if they had a perfect week, you'd have an argument to say there.
Yeah, if they had beat Apple Corps that first game, but no, you know, even as the 87s guy, I will say that I don't think they deserve to be in the top 5. At least not yet. You know, if they can maybe keep things going now with 2 straight wins heading into the showcase.
So the
Maryland's
question
doing with a lot of depth too. They have 5 guys in double-digit points already. You get Donnelly. We just talked about Graziano. How about Donnelly? How about Din? Like Anthony said. How about Rosen?
You lose a player like Halen Cookston, and you just become better. Which I have to drop that name because I talked to him for a while. I talked about him for a while with Vinny Pietrangelo from Arcadia because he's going there. I mean, so we're set. We know who our 5 are. It's Walpole, Wizards, Rangers, Maryland, Railers. The question is, what order do we put them in? Can
I would honestly put Team Maryland at number 1. They get my vote because as we just mentioned, they're scoring goals at a torrid pace right now. Yeah. But they also look pretty solid on the back end too, where they're not really giving up too many goals. Their one exception was when they nearly had that loss against the Little Flyers where they came back. But I mean, I said it last week and I'll say it again. I think the South Division is right up there with the East as the 2 strongest divisions, because in those 2 divisions, even the last place teams are right around hockey 500.
Little Flyers, they've been in the playoffs many a times.
The little Flyers are a good team. Don't let their place in the standings fool you.
No, you're right, Anthony. And Maryland's doing it with 2 goalies right now. It looks like 2. Gideon Sullivan and John Werber are both playing. So there's a lot of teams in this league right now that have a good goalie problem where they're rotating. You got Chris Jackson and Nathan Miller rotating each other through and through. You got the Wizards with 3 guys. You got Asenza, you got Gover. Maryland, you got Werber, you got Sullivan. I mean, all these teams are goalie rich right now.
And one more thing I'll add, because before the game against the ProTech Junior Ducks that I was calling, I was talking to some of the guys on ProTech who had those 2 games against Maryland. And I think it was Tristan Fadadad who said it. He said that not only are they skilled, but they're a very, very hard team to play against. They're physical. They are very good around the puck. They block shots. They do just about everything.
I think I have a selfish reason why I want to move Maryland to number 1 and move the Rangers to number 2. It's to set up a 1 versus 2 matchup on Sunday. Selfish.
Oh my goodness. Of course.
I don't hate that.
Why not? The power rankings are all about stirring the pot. Let's stir the pot. Let's do it. Why not?
We've been getting asked by a lot of teams to keep themselves out of the power rankings. Remember Coach Strider coming into the office and says, yeah, can you guys not do that again? And we just had them as receiving votes one week. Well, so I don't know if Terry Watt's going to call us now and say, please, no more receiving votes for us. We'll stay away.
This is true.
Or maybe not.
This is true. So we got 2.
Maryland 1, Rangers 2.
We got 2 in favor of Maryland 1. Anyone else want to? Jeff, Lauren?
Oh, Lauren, I'll give
I'm okay with it. Maryland's popping off. I'm okay with it. I think they're a fun team to watch. I think their jerseys are fun to look at. Their players are doing well. They're an all-around fun team to watch so far.
How about
Jeff,
you already
got our numbers.
Yeah, but what if I just say I want Rangers 1, Maryland 2? Because I mean, you got to look at strength of schedule, right? Rangers being the defending champs, doing it with a lot of different. I mean, Victor Malzahn, again, we'll get into fantasy later on, but still, when was the last time Rich DiCaprio had a team that his defenseman was one of the leading points getters on his team? And he's got the 2-headed monster of Chris Jackson and Nathan Miller.
Hey, you know what they say? Defense wins championships.
Yes, it does. It does, Lauren. So do offensive defensemen like Victor Hedman.
Do we want to go Rangers 1, Maryland 2? Does that change Anthony's vote? Oh God,
I wouldn't
just like throwing it up. Just stir the pot, Neil. That's all. That's all good.
I wouldn't mind that because I think as long as Maryland goes higher than 4, considering that they had 3 consecutive wins, they at least have to move up. Whether they go 1 or whether they go 2, that's I'm not really going to debate that because the Junior Rangers are also just a terrific team, as you said, with the 2 goaltenders, and the Boston Junior Rangers are definitely, again, the favorites to win the Frozen Final this year, looking for that repeat. So I wouldn't mind putting them at 1.
You convinced me, Jeff. Let's go Rangers 1. I mean,
I just don't know if you can move from 4 to 1.
How am I outnumbered now? What is happening?
These are the power rankings. In a year like this, we have no idea what we're doing. So,
yeah, clearly we're putting Pietrangelo back at the top. Why are we doing that?
I agree with what Anthony said, as far as moving BJR or moving Maryland into the top 3. I just don't know if you can jump them to 1 from 4. I think they go 2, and then we shuffle everything else.
Rangers, Maryland. Express.
Sorry, Maryland, I fought for you. They
Express at
me.
3. Express only lost 1 game in a shootout.
Yeah, do they do enough, like we were saying here, to move out of the top 5? No. And do they do enough to lose out of the top 3?
No.
So I think Walpole stays 3.
They beat the Avalanche on Friday. They beat the Wolves on Saturday. and they lost to the Railers today in a shootout, which makes the season series with the Railers 1-1. Rangers 1, Maryland 2, Walpole 3.
Final answer, Alex.
Railers 4, Wizards 5.
I like that.
Yeah.
I vote for that. Up to Lauren and Anthony.
And I'm going to tell you right now, the dark horse team to watch to move back into the top 5 this week of the Avalanche. The Avalanche play against the Warriors the day we drop this on the 14th, and then they play the Wizards, the Ducks, and the Rangers at the Showcase. So they have 2 of their 4 games are against teams in the top 5.
That's a tough schedule.
They go 4-0, they have to be in.
Right. I was going to say, we'll see what they are after this week. I mean, that's a huge litmus test for them, isn't it? Playing those 4 teams. So
it's funny because Chris said to me, he goes, I forgot kind of when the Showcase was. I probably wouldn't have I probably would have put that game on Thursday. But Ryan McGrath did not forget when the Showcase was because he only has 1 game at the Showcase. He only plays on Monday, the Warriors. So they play,
and he's getting married on Saturday.
That's why Chris forgot the dates. Good job by Ryan to remember the dates.
Well done, Coach.
for his wedding. And I give his future wife as of this weekend all the credit in the world for letting him come back for the game on Monday.
A ton. Chrissy McGrath?
Yes. So, gotta be Chrissy McGrath. Gonna be after this weekend. She said, I'll allow you to go to the Showcase, but for 1 game. So Ryan put in the request to have just Monday's game. So that's why they're playing. And it's kind of a weird schedule, right? If you look at it, because you're like, well, we have a game the day that we drop this, but then there's nothing till the weekend.
Right.
And then once the weekend ends, there's nothing until the following Sunday because we go straight into the All-Star week.
Right.
I think once we get to the end of the All-Star week, I'll finally be able to take a deep breath again. I've been underwater for about 2 weeks now.
Woo! Still recovering from the Worcester Showcase. And then, like you said, in comes another showcase. And back we are.
So
you sound better, though. Everyone health-wise sounds great and returned to previous forms.
I didn't feel great the immediate 24 hours afterwards. I think it was just
none of us
being tired.
I loved waking up to that text. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm just really tired.
Okay, pause. Sleep. Are you okay at 1:30 p.m. on a Monday?
It was not 1:30. It was not 1:30.
Yeah,
it was a couple minutes after 1. It was not 1:30.
Okay, I'm rounding up then.
Oh, this was Lawrence Smith's first ever showcase. We've done this. All 3 of us have done this for many years.
I mean, my first text wrote,
a different beast.
Are you okay? It's Monday and the world has started their week. Are you?
I didn't get that. I definitely did not get that.
I erased that part of the text. That's why I said, are you okay? Like, because I was like, I remember going back to college. At some point, I would sleep that late. Like, I get it. Yeah. Like, I don't know how I ever did that.
I couldn't even do that at college. Once you start, like, I somehow went until I think my senior year without 8 a.m.s. And once I started having those, my sleep schedule was just totally screwed. You couldn't sleep in anymore after that.
Well, you got recharged after the showcase.
Oh, yeah. It was great.
Refreshed.
I have a very comfy bed, so that helps.
Yep. And a 4-day showcase is your first showcase. That's a bender. That's a long 4 days.
Yeah, it's like Neil said, you literally have to be back at the rink in less than 12 hours. So it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, we basically all just did the Boston Marathon and then sprinted for the first 10 miles. We're like, oh, Heartbreak Hill's coming. I still got 13 miles to go. Uh-oh.
If we're talking about poor sleep schedules and just quick turnarounds, I got to say, I was all right after the showcase, and I think that was because of my time at Seton Hall. No, because I worked at the club hockey team, and in college club hockey, you play games at 9:45, 10:30 start times at night, which is just ridiculous. And then working those overnight shifts at my radio station, WSOU. So thanks, guys. Got me ready for the showcase grind.
There you go. See, Anthony's well trained.
Yeah.
So just to recap the EHL power rankings that we just came up with, it's Rangers, Maryland, Walpole, Railers, Wizards. Nobody is receiving votes. We're not doing that to ourselves this week.
That's fine. I think, like we said, I think all the teams would be fine with that because receiving votes has been kind of a wonky, bad luck charm, not so charmish for most teams this year.
So to the EHLP we go. The Railers haven't played since October 5th, which was before the last podcast that we had. So their shutout streak is if we're talking just the minutes during the games, it's over 180 minutes long. If we're talking about all of the calendar days since the Railers P team gave up a goal, you got to go all the way back to September 30th. They haven't given up a goal yet in this month. So
do we have a different administration at that point in time? Holy heck, September 30th.
They have
that was only 2 weeks ago.
They have 2 games at the showcase this weekend. Not every EHLP team is coming to this showcase. Every EHLP team came to the first showcase, the November showcase, and the January showcase. There's a small handful coming to this one and the Newington one, but they are one of the teams that's coming. They're playing the Rangers on Saturday night and the Little Flyers on Sunday. So those will be two
back.
Yeah, those will be 2 tough matchups, and hey, we'll keep an eye on their shutout streak as well. But nothing happened, so you can't move them out of that top spot. Mm-hmm. From there, though, it gets interesting because the EHLP continues to fascinate us. I have to say, the East Division may be as tough in the P as it is in the E.
Very deep. Look at that, the Express in the bottom spot.
But they're third in our power rankings.
3-2-0.
They haven't played since the showcase either. Which
I was gonna say they've only played 5 games, so.
Which is where they won all 3 of their games.
And they're on. I was gonna say they're on 3-game winning streak, but somehow they're less.
So it's tough, right? So since last week's power rankings, the Seahawks are in first place in that division at 6-3-1. But they went
year 1.
They went 2-1-1 this past week. They were number 4 in the power rankings last week. The Warriors won a game and lost a game this past week. They were ranked number 2. The Rangers, who year in and year out are one of the top contenders in the EHLP, are 5-4. So I guess if you want to ask the question in the EHL, who are the Seacoast Spartans? Who are the Boston Junior Rangers in the EHLP, right? It's basically the same exact question.
Changing the guard, team that's dominated the P for years. And now look, the rookie team, the Seahawks, are having their run with it.
And I would have said after the Avalanche won 2 games this past weekend, they beat the Chiefs and they beat the Seahawks. I would have said the Avalanche have to move back into the P power rankings, but they lost to the Warriors today. They were recording this podcast in overtime. So I think just like the EHL, we're kind of throwing darts again here at the P level, and we're going to be changing this thing up again 1 week from now.
Yeah, and I don't think we can, because of all those teams, like we said, that we've had in the top 4. I don't know if we can shuffle this very much at all.
I think we have to stay exactly the same.
Yeah, I think so too. As like I said, as we go by like demeriting and meriting teams, if you haven't played and most of the teams haven't, then how can you drop down? And I would keep them the same for sure.
So that would keep, as we mentioned already, the Railers at 1. The Warriors this past week lost to the Seahawks, but beat the Avalanche, so they stay at 2. Walpole didn't play, so they stay at 3. Seahawks played 4 times. They won a couple games. They lost the game in regulation, and they lost the game in overtime, so they stay at 4. I guess at this level, I would say a couple teams that are receiving votes because they're right on the outside looking in are the Avalanche and 87s. How do you guys feel about that?
That sounds about right to me. Anthony, your 87s premier. You've been on the call for that.
They played 1 game this past weekend, right?
Yeah, they beat the Little Flyers 7-4. I don't know if I would say that they deserve the receiving votes. I still think that
an honest man. See, this is why we love you. You're an honest man.
The 87's P team can score goals. It's something that the EHL team still hasn't figured out. But no, it's weird. So the EHL team is really good at goaltending and defense, but they're struggling at scoring goals. The P team can score goals like there's no tomorrow, but defense and goaltending, well, for these guys, you can say they're getting used to the junior hockey level where defense is something that they're still trying to learn. But I don't know. I think that
we'll say just Avalanche then, because the Avalanche had a week where they went 2-0-1, which if they had gone 3-0, maybe they bumped their way in, but they went 2-0-1.
So there we go. 1 team receiving votes.
So the 4 stays the same. Wash out the receiving votes, which was Little Flyers and Lumberjacks last week, and make it just the Avalanche. So there's your new power rankings. And as we say every week, in a week from now, we'll be changing things up once again.
Or will we?
But
What if
with
everybody
that,
goes on? No.
speaking of changing things up.
Uh-oh.
Man.
Surprise you're going to throw at us now.
I'm in last place in fantasy. So let's get to the E-Crew Fantasy Challenge.
It's time for the E-Crew Fantasy Challenge.
And the E-Crew Fantasy Challenge is presented by BioSteel, the sports drink of the EHL. Use the promo code ESHOW, that's ESHOW, for 25% off when you check out at biosteel.com.
I'm in last place by 6 points.
Because what a week.
Like, Anthony, we're going to have a talk with Jeremy Connor. You know, the 87s played 3 games. He played 1. It was the game that they lost to the Apple Core, and it resulted in negative points for me. So obviously, you flip it into a win. I'm probably not in last place, but I can't spend too much time on my team because I didn't do anything compared to what you guys did. I had Josh Grun, solid week, a goal, 3 assists for 9 total fantasy points.
Good pick.
I had Dominic Metro, a goal, 3 assists, 1 point was on the power play, got me 10 points. I just mentioned Jeremy Connor. He was in net for that loss for the 87s against the Apple Core. So that resulted in negative 1.2 points. And then Austin Pick got me a goal, an assist, and 1 power play point for 6, which honestly, 23.8 points isn't a bad week. It's a good week. It's not a bad week. It's honestly my second highest week of the 4 weeks.
Damn.
But because all of you guys decided that you were just going to go crazy this week, I'm in last place again. All right.
You're welcome.
Whoops. So that gives me the chance to pick first, though, and we see how fast this thing can flip. I have 2 Avalanche on my roster this week because they are playing 4 games, as I mentioned. They're playing on Thursday, the day we dropped this podcast, and they're playing 3 games at the showcase. So I got Michael Tersoni up front, Ronan Mobley in goal. I'm going to go to
No. That is Ronan Mobley. We learned that at the showcase. That is Ronan Mobley.
He threw us for a curveball when he introduced himself as Mobley, and I was like, and Chris, I got Mobley.
You've been talking to Chris too much. It's Ronan Mobley.
Never ask the coaches what their pronunciations are. Just have this conversation with Coach
Amen,
McGrath.
Jefferson.
Thank you, Lauren. It is Ronan Mobley. So Michael Tersoni and Ronan Mobley. On defense, Alex Newton from Team Maryland. I think he's honestly one of the most underrated defenseman in the league. I don't think enough people are talking about him just yet. And we know they are playing the Rangers, so I need him to come up big in that one. And then I'm going to go with Kyle Patton as my utility because he had a strong showcase at the Worcester showcase, including a couple of shorthanded goals. So that's Neil from the South picking Kyle Patton. And hopefully that flips things around for me because the weeks you guys just had were crazy. Like Lauren puts up 33.8 points and she finishes quote unquote third for the week because of what Anthony and Jeff did. Brett Hanley got you a goal last week.
He snuck in there.
Yes. Ryan Brow got you an assist, which was on the power play. Jack Boschert won 2 of the 3 games that he was in net for. So that's 23.8 points, which is exactly what I had. So her goalie got what my whole team got, which is just ridiculous. And then
Jack Boschert.
Colby Walters got you a pair of assists for 4 points. So what picks do you have for the showcases this week?
I double dipped with Valley this time, but for my forwards, I went with Aiden Hotchkiss. He's been quite a fun one to watch. I feel like the Avs don't get talked about enough. I think they're kind of starting to make more of a name for themselves. I think I'm excited to see them continue to do well, and Aiden Hotchkiss has been definitely someone to watch from their team. On defense, I'm picking Dominic Metro. I went to that Valley game that Jeff mentioned with Mari, and Dominic Metro's name was mentioned on almost all of those goals as like whether he scored it or assist. So I was like, that's definitely someone to take note of. So I'm picking him this week. And then
me and Lauren got angry last week because we looked and saw, Neil has him, damn it. But it didn't help him.
It didn't help me at all. Well, it did. He got me points, but like not enough points.
In terms of my goalie, I am going with Nathaniel Hopkins of the Seahawks. I think it'll be fun to kind of put one of their players out there, see how well they do. I think they're starting to make a little bit of a name for themselves. We've been talking about them quite a bit on the podcast so far, so that'll be fun. And my second choice from Valley comes in my utility spot with Billy Hartnett. He's played in all 8 games, and he's gotten 8 points so far in 8 games. So to me, that screams consistency, and he was a fun one to watch out there too, because he's a big guy and he's definitely all over the ice, and he's a fun one that I'm excited to have on my team.
So starting on Thursday, Lauren has her Warriors flag going, and I have my Avalanche flag going. I am calling that game too. That's my second game I've called all year, and then the showcase game will be my third. So we're really far behind a normal year for me.
Dustin, off the mic. You said you want to rest.
You got to get me on the broadcast. I'll do some color for you guys.
There we go.
Come to the game. Come to the game tomorrow.
Absolutely. I told you we'd work you in, Lauren. Definitely. We'll have you on as color. And Neil's just trying to rest those pipes for those frozen finals calls, buddy. Those better be crisp with all that rest on those pipes. Let me just say that.
So
I like telling stories, and I'm ready to throw some chirps out there. So get me on.
Let's talk about how Anthony and Jeff put up over 49 points each. And Jeff was one save better than Anthony.
0.2
points.
0.2. I just looked at that. I saw that. I was like, wait, Anthony had 49.2? Wait, 49.4.
Like, I'm watching you guys put up these points, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, we have to start with Anthony because he was 0.2 behind him. Barreled in 3 goals, 2 of which were game winners, an assist, 1 power play point. So that's 14 points. That's over half of what I got just from one guy again. Ryan Davies got you 3 assists, 1 on the power play, 1 shorthanded. Nathan Mueller's week was quiet until he had a 47 save shutout against the Rangers.
He said,
against the Seahawks. I can't have a shutout against himself. That's the Seahawks.
Of the year, still here. Thank you. Yep.
Like, he's undefeated still. Remember that. Like, 2 wins, 1 goal against, 71 saves, 1 shutout for 23.2 points. And honestly, Anthony, I don't want to say the word dud, but I guess your dud would be Everett Snyder, who didn't get you any fantasy points until the game that you called today, where he got a power play assist. And if he had put together a stronger week for you, who knows where you would have gone. You would have gone. This has to be hitting 49 points has to be almost like a record for you guys. Like, we have to start keeping track of that because that is a ridiculous week.
Because records are made to be broken, Neil. That's right.
This is
exactly true. Jeff.
We got to do that.
So all right, Anthony, there's your 49.2 points. Tell me how you match it this week.
Okay, well, first things first, I think I'm just done picking 87's players. And
you hear that, boys? Your man has left the building. Goodbye.
Anthony, you might be walking to the showcase after that.
Yeah, no, I think so. But
you got spaghetti legs off.
I will take the risk because you know what? I still think they're a good team, but they've got a lot to prove and a lot of growing to do. So I think that I'm gonna stop being a homer and try to pick other guys around the league. But without further ado, I guess
you're not a homer.
Dish out my picks right now. Well, first off, and just adding insult to injury after saying that, I'm going to go with the guy who scored the game-winning goal against us with 36 seconds left in regulation, Colin Callanan. Yes. He's been red hot right now. He just came off a 3-point game in a loss against the Rough Riders. He now has 7 points in his last 3 games. He has 3 points in he's had 3-point games in 3 of his last 5. So he has just been lighting it up in the EHL. He is an obvious pick for forward.
Red apple core jerseys.
Yeah. Defenseman will be Tyler Anasazi from the Railers Junior Hockey Club. He has 7 points in as many games with the Railers. He had 2 assists in their win against Walpole. So I think he's a great addition to the blue line.
He was just mic'd up too.
If anyone
just poured in those points today, he had 3 points today.
If anyone hasn't watched the Railers Instagram yet, he was mic'd up in their game against the Seahawks. It's pretty entertaining.
Let's go, Trevor.
I was gonna say, is that a Trevor Blackburn production?
Yes, Trevor.
Ooh, we have a battle of the social media. Warriors coming out with their
killing
YouTube
it with the creativity.
Yeah, sorry, awesome. You keep going, Anthony. Had to drop that.
No, that's fine. For goaltender, I'm going with Jack Boschert from the Walpole Express.
Damn it.
And he has made, in 4 out of the last 5 games, he's made at least 35 saves.
Yes, he has.
And even in the the shootout loss against the Railers, he still made 36 saves, 923 save percentage. He's been playing really well. and their next game is actually against the 87s. So
Doesn't pick 87s and picks against the 87s.
It's like, you know what? Turn this thing around.
He did well for Team Low, so maybe he'll do well for Team Anthony too.
You know, hey, at some point I have to watch out for myself. I got to win fantasy, guys. And unless the 87's offense pops off, then Bosher, for all I know, could have a really good game. But
I'm sure coaches Kieran and Hooley wouldn't disagree with you.
Hooley's going to kill me after this.
Anthony, what time does the bus leave on Saturday?
I have no idea, but
I would double check that one and make sure
I would
you show
get there
up
real early.
Whatever time they tell you, get there an hour earlier than that.
All right, ready? You race Neil's rooster in the neighborhood and see who can get up there and get there faster, huh?
Yes.
And then my utility pick, I'm going back to the Railers. I'm going with Mike DeMascolo. He has points in 3 out of his last 4. He had an assist in the game against Walpole. I think that he's due for a really good performance in the showcase coming up.
And 0.2 points ahead of Anthony was Jeff. Obviously, the saves being the difference with Jackson Bernard, who, again, I pointed out for Anthony, if Everett Snyder had a few more points, who knows where he would have been. Jackson Bernard had 127 saves throughout the week.
Just another week for Jackson.
Only won 1 game, though. So you flip maybe that 87s game around, you flip around that Rough Riders game, and Jeff literally going from the bottom to almost the top. But his overall total, as I mentioned, 127 saves, 12 goals against, 1 game won. That was 15 points. I'm going to get to count in at the end because it's just stupid.
Save the best for last.
A power play goal for Spencer Quinn was 4 points for Jeff. 2 power play assists for Victor Malzahn resulted in 6 points. And then Callanan was just like, it was just video game like.
Good
yuck. 4 goals, 3 assists, 2 power play points, 1 shorthanded point, and 1 game winner for 22 total points. Like,
I'm gonna call him Mr. Goodwrench. He can do it all.
And I think a whole separate debate, separate podcast, maybe who's the best forward in the league right now? Is it Farrell Din, Colin Callanan? Like, and I'm not mentioning 10 others that could be in there too, right? Yeah. But Callanan may be playing better than anybody else right now. So, but as you did finish 0.2 points ahead of Anthony and way ahead of me, not too far ahead of Lauren. What are your picks for the showcase, Jeff?
And may I just throw in as well, Commissioner Ravin, that Spencer Quinn, we just named him the EHL Player of the Month, and Quinny was my quietest guy.
He was your quietest guy.
4 points from Mr. EHL Fantasy Star of the Month, or Mr. Player of the Month, excuse me.
He must be pulling an Egan Schmidt on you.
He'll
pop off when we don't pick up.
I would say, what's going to happen this weekend, Lauren. He's going to go in and score. He's going to get 2 straight hat tricks. So, but on to new weeks. That was a great week, but got to keep it moving forward. Coach Belichick's way. So we're going to start with forward, and we got Mr. Will Halecki leading the Boston Junior Rangers in points so far. 11 points in 10 games for him, 4 goals, 7 assists. 3 of those power play apples, and he's got a shorthanded apple in there too. Big week for him last week, so we're hoping he can continue. On the back end, I'm going with the Warriors. Just had the pleasure of calling the Warriors versus Spartans game the other day. That was a heck of a game, 5-3 win for the Spartans and comeback. But Ryan Davies looked really good, and I believe it was Anthony that had him last week. He's a point per game player for Coach McGrath right now, 6 points in 6 games, getting a lot of power play time, 2 power play assists, and also has a shorthanded assist in there too. So hoping for some more special teams magic from Davies this week. In goal, we're going to go with Mr. Stefan Kulonic, who's another one of those goalies, I guess, that's kind of going under the radar. Chris Jackson, Nathan Miller, Mueller. What are we doing? Miller or Mueller? We're not sure yet. I think it's Miller, but we're going Mueller. We're doing both. Nate will figure that out this weekend so we can all get on the same page. But Kulonic, 2-1-3 goals against, 3-1 record, has 101 saves on 109 shots, his save percentage at almost .930. That's pretty darn good. And then finishing things off, I want to stick with the core because I'm about to go buy a Colin Callanan jersey. I'm going to call him up and get my, was he 18? 16?
27.
27.
Close enough. I'm going to buy your jersey, but I just don't know your jersey.
You might as well buy Colby Walters at that point. That's closer to his number.
That's what I was thinking. Okay, well, Nick Weber, come on down. Number 19. We know his number, and he's got 3 goals, 13 assists, 16 points in 9 games for Weber. And half of those points coming on the power play, or a little under half. 3 goals, 3 assists on the power play. Big Pims guy too. Too bad we don't get points for Pims. He's got 35 of those, but stay out of the box, Nick. Let's keep you on the ice and let's keep those points coming. That's my team.
Are your picks based off of games that you're calling at the showcase?
No. Honestly, they're not.
Okay.
Sometimes I hate that. It's like it's too much stress. It's fun, but it's like too much stress at the same time.
It can be like so exciting though at the same time, right?
It can be. I'll be there Sunday, Monday. I have no games Saturday.
Yeah. So Anthony, I got to point out on numerous occasions how you fell 0.2 points behind Jeff for the week, but I'm not sure if you noticed this. Overall, you're in first place.
Let's go.
Oh, done. The two rookies putting the two bets in the bottom of the standings.
Put 0.6 points ahead of Lauren. So Anthony is at 104.6. Lauren is at 104. Jeff is at 99.4. And I am bringing up the rear at 93.4. So the next time I use the eye emojis in any text with any of you guys that I'm like looking down on you, can you just slap me? Like I'm done. Like I have to just stay quiet.
Wake up call.
I have to just stay quiet and let it all play itself out because I'm in last place right now. And it's after winning last year, it's a little embarrassing. But hey, I'm feeling confident going in the showcase. So speaking of the showcase, I think it's a good time for us to give some games to watch in the What to Watch For segment.
Before we wrap things up, here's what to watch for this week in the eShow.
What to Watch For is presented by Hockey TV, the official streaming platform for your EHL and EHLP action through the 2021-2022 season.
The game to watch is my game, what I'm calling Wizards Avalanche.
Shocker.
No, it is not, Neil. It's Team Maryland versus the BJR.
So Wizards Avalanche. Wizards do have a win against the Avalanche this season. I said earlier the Avalanche have 4 games this week, 2 of which are against teams in the top 5, including the Wizards. Obviously, part of it has to do with riding Ronan Mobley also. So that's my game to watch.
That's going to take a while to
There you
switch.
go.
I better get it right tomorrow.
Right.
Anyone else?
By Mobley.
Are you going with Maryland or Apple Core Rangers? That's your game to watch?
Who was
So
that?
what did you?
Me?
No,
it was Team Maryland versus.
Yes, Team Maryland
BJR.
versus Rangers.
That has to be in there.
Number 1 versus number
right?
2.
Yep, has to be in there. There's really no shortage. I mean, you could go anywhere. Spartans, Apple Court, a little north versus south of who's who. Right. That's the addition.
You know what?
That's going to be a good game.
That is the who.
Forgot?
That is the who are these teams game.
That's
That's where we're dubbing
Figure it
it.
out, guys. Figure it out.
Is Anthony watching the 87s Express? Is that your game to watch?
Yeah, I mean, well, the 87s have 2 good matchups. They're going up against the Walpole Express, and then they go up against the Vermont Lumberjacks. So I think for Adam Hooley, he's going to get a very good idea of what his team is made of because he has 2 really good games coming, or teams against 2 other very good teams that they're facing.
Lauren,
what do you think, Lauren?
anything involving the Warriors?
No, I only took 2 of their players. Okay. I'm kind of interested to see how the Chiefs do because I pulled one of their players, Jack Devine, for an interview after one of their games. And I think they might be someone to start keeping an eye on because they've had a little bit of inconsistency. They got their first win at the showcase, which is obviously very exciting, but I think there's someone to keep an eye on. I think they might be quietly starting to make their way back into more consistent wins. So I think that'll be interesting to see how that plays out moving forward.
They play the Seahawks, so that should be that's a good sandpaper team to go up against. It's been surprising people lately.
And one EHLP game to watch that I mentioned earlier, Railers with their 3+ game shutout streak going against the Rangers, which is actually a rematch of their playoff series from last year, which resulted in the Railers knocking off the Rangers and going to their first ever trip to the Frozen Finals. So it's a little added motivation on the BJR side. So obviously,
what happened when we were on the tank. I remember we were watching that.
Dude, the GMC Yukon.
Yeah,
I was driving the Yukon so well until I hit the curb when we got to the hotel. Remember that?
It's like, no.
I didn't hit anything until Jeff and Brittany were like, that's a curb, that's a curb, that's a curb, and I just hit the curb. But the tires were great.
I was saying, but on the way down, I remember we called Rich, we were talking, that was Railers Rangers. Wow, that feels like forever ago. Series. So that's a great game to watch. Absolutely.
So not 44 games this week, 28 games this week. And just so everyone at home can make their mental note, next week's podcast is dropping on Wednesday. Obviously, we hit the All-Star break for our college or our team to face the colleges. So we want to drop the podcast before those games happen. And we play Fitchburg State next Wednesday, Curry College next Friday, and UMass Boston next Saturday. So we're going to quickly record the podcast the day after the showcase ends for all of us. So I'll make sure that we set the time for Tuesday's recording late enough so that we can all get some sleep. I don't know if we'll
1 p.m.?
do. I don't know if we'll do anything past 1 p.m. I'm gonna have to make you get up in the front half of that day. But
late morning.
Okay, actually set an alarm.
Between 10 and 11. Between 10 a.m. 11 a.m. Probably a good prime spot.
But again, for everyone that is coming to the showcase this weekend, the day to give yourself extra time is Sunday because there is a Patriots game at 4:25. So there's about 60,000 people that packed their way into Gillette Stadium. So the stadium being 2 miles up the road from Rodman, it's a little bit tough. So make sure you give yourself some extra time for that. But with that, we'll see you guys this weekend in Walpole.
See you in the poll.
Thanks for listening to The E-Show. Learn more at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when next week's podcast is released.